It's the T word, people! We are talking about the T word! I know I said this was going to be a Dylan Larkin-centric show today, and that's exactly what we've got going on. Because the Detroit Red Wings captain currently wants out, and I wanted to bring up the idea of tampering. Because when you think about former Michigan Wolverines that were captains of their NHL clubs that all of a sudden asked out and demanded to be traded, there are two that come to my mind right away. We have Dylan Larkin of the Detroit Red Wings, but we also have Quinn Hughes, formerly of the Vancouver Canucks. Now, I get it. You know, the Canucks sucked. Anybody would want to leave this situation, but I'm going to go out there and say that Quinn Hughes being the captain wasn't even really something that he deserved anyway. They just wanted to keep him, and they wanted to force his hand so that he wouldn't want to leave, but it wasn't really worth it because it seemed like he already wanted to leave, even though he was the captain. It was weird. But today we're talking about Quinn Hughes. We're talking about Dylan Larkin because the one place where both of these guys shared a locker room in the past few months was at Milano Cortina at the 2026 USA Winter Olympic Games. Take a look at what Elliotte Friedman said 2 days ago on the 32 Thoughts podcast. Elliotte has hinted in the past few weeks that Dylan Larkin may not be the only player to request a trade this summer. Him and Kyle Bukauskas joked today about the U.S. Olympic team group chat. Elliotte says, "There's a lot going on out there." And Kyle says, "It's one of the more impactful group chats to ever exist. Something to keep an eye on this summer." And of course, we all recognize that when it comes to the state of American superstars in hockey, it's been a pretty tough go, especially for those that happen to play on Canadian teams. Now, we know that Dylan Larkin does not. Detroit is very well an American squad. But when you look at Matthew Tkachuk, when you look at Quinn Hughes, when you look at the future, Matthews, Brady Tkachuk, these guys could potentially be asking out. Connor Hellebuck, who knows if he's going to stick around in Winnipeg. You have Rachel Kreshak, who, of course, she used to be Rachel Dory, worked for the Canucks, pretty prominent social media presence. She said, "I was skeptical before, but the more I hear, the more I believe there is a lot of tampering going on between all individuals involved with the U.S. Olympic team." Now, you can ask the question, tampering, what does that really mean in this context? Well, hey, players can talk about this kind of thing. Players are allowed to recommend to each other, "Hey, Dylan, it's really cool over here in Minnesota. I asked out of my Vancouver Canucks team, and I got traded to Minnie, and it's great. Bill Guerin is treating us like kings." Quinn Hughes could have very well said that to Dylan Larkin. Is it tampering? Technically, but it's not bad, because players can say whatever they want to each other. It's only tampering when GMs and agents get involved. Players can say whatever they want in their own personal group chats, their private conversations, their DMs, whatever, in the locker room. As long as nothing contractually is being violated between the teams and the agents, then it's all fair game, right? In fact, this entire thing is not the first time we had seen something like this. When Dylan Larkin's trade request came through, and it was reported that he wanted to go to either Florida, Minnesota, or Vegas, you have this tweet that was tweeted out. It got 100,000 views. There was tampering in Milan. You know what I think is kind of funny about this? One of the top replies here says, "The NHL is quickly turning into LeBron's NBA. It's disappointing to watch." That's a similar comment that was replied to on the NHL Trade Alert tweet. Why are Americans turning the NHL into the NBA? Ay. We are really going to start getting teams building out super teams to try to take down the Florida Panthers and Matthew Tkachuk, aren't we? Now, I also wanted to take this video in a bit of a different direction too. Not just talk about tampering, whether or not Quinn Hughes may have buddied up to his buddy Dylan Larkin and said, yeah, man, like, it's so great, come over here to Minnesota and do the thing with me. But I also wanted to talk about the possibility of Quinn Hughes having gone to Detroit, because these two guys have been pretty good buds for a while. It was very well documented that Quinn Hughes would have been interested in going to the Red Wings. And there is a narrative that has started up that asks whether or not Quinn Hughes going to Detroit could have saved this whole Dylan Larkin thing from happening in the first place. Here's a tweet from TJ Lang, who went out there and posted this 4 days ago. Quinn Hughes wanted to come to Detroit, and he wanted to stay in Detroit. Steve Yzerman didn't have the balls, and now this, a Dylan Larkin trade request, is the fallout. It's a total mess. All Detroit had to do was make an offer, but from what was said, Minnesota made an offer that was far above the rest. The GM of the Wings didn't take it seriously. Detroit-Vancouver talks fell apart because Hughes would not commit to a long-term contract extension with the Wings. Pretty simple. And the trade Hughes ultimately did was a blockbuster. The Red Wings did not have that kind of depth in the first place. Another reply. Stone Cold Steve Yzerman tweeted this out, so you're telling me, if Steve Yzerman traded for Quinn Hughes, all of the U.S. team would have been looking at Detroit as a destination? And if that's the case, was Dylan not giving Steve this intel? Nah, this was planned. Now, this is a pretty conspiracy theorist way to look at the Dylan Larkin fallout with Detroit. The notion that if Quinn Hughes found himself with the Red Wings, it would have prevented all this Dylan Larkin wants to leave talk from coming out, and it would have potentially made Detroit a higher-tier destination for other American players. That seems like a really great outcome for the Detroit Red Wings. We saw similar things happen with the Minnesota Wild. Guess what? Quinn got traded over there. All of a sudden, a few months later, we're talking about guys like Brady Tkachuk and Austin Matthews potentially heading over to the Wild. We had insiders saying that a Matthews or Brady Tkachuk trade to Mini will happen. And that would not have gone down had Quinn Hughes not gotten sent over to there as well. Now, with Dylan Larkin being interested in going to the Wild, you very well can ask the question whether or not that would have been the opposite had a Quinn Hughes trade to Detroit gone through instead. NHL Watcher tweeted this out 2 days ago. If the only thing holding back the Quinn Hughes to Detroit trade was Yzerman wouldn't do it without the extension, he needs to resign ASAP. Hughes played for Michigan. Doesn't his family reside there? You get him for potentially 2 playoff runs? It's not worth the risk? Even if he wouldn't sign, you could move him for assets and fans would have appreciated that you took the chance for once. I actually do think that's true. Like, if Yzerman traded for Quinn Hughes and Quinn ended up having a stellar first year with Detroit, they made the playoffs and they went, I don't know, to Game 6 of the first round, but they still got eliminated. If it's already coming out that Quinn Hughes doesn't want to stay, then hey, trade him once more. Get him off your team, get some assets, and then Red Wings fans will respect Yzerman for actually making a win-now move and taking a big swing. Here's a tweet from the Grindline podcast. It's Elliot Friedman from 32 Thoughts. At the beginning of the Quinn Hughes situation, he said he didn't think that Hughes was going to Minnesota. But that's where he ended up. Guerin has probably went in hot with an offer already for Dylan Larkin. Same with Florida. Where did everything go sideways with Larkin? Could it have been when Bertuzzi got traded and the contract talks that followed? Where it really could have fallen apart was the lack of moves at the deadlines and the summers. Losing Gostisbehere and Perron was tough. Yzerman tried hard to add. He just struck out. Then they missed Hughes without an extension commitment and grabbed Falk, but they still missed. The Red Wings and Larkin just lost faith in each other. Losing sucks, and it drove a wedge into the relationship. At the end of the day, if this went through, if Yzerman just traded for Quinn Hughes, could all of this have been avoided? Was there tampering in Milan to force Larkin's hand into the possibility of going over to Minnesota? Was Quinn Hughes a part of that? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the Larkin-Hughes tampering Team USA Olympic thing? Does it make sense? Or is this just total lunacy that we're talking about here? Pointless video, pointless commentary, whatever. Or is there actually reasonable substance behind it? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on. And bye.